Imagine, the year is 9000 BC, and man is on the brink of his greatest invention ever. Is it steel, the wheel, the bow and arrow? It is none of these. But this invention will give man the tools he needs to bend nature to his will and conquer the globe. This invention is beer. Now, I spent a lot of time researching for this speech, and I was inspired to do it because I work at a place called Ford's Garage in downtown Fort Myers, where we have over 200 craft beers, and through working there I've developed a passion for beer, its many styles, and its rich cultural history. That led me to a lot of cool articles, and I actually came across this really awesome documentary called How Beer Saved the World, which kind of goes through all the awesome things beer has done. It was a really great help in my speech, and if you want to learn more about it, I encourage you all to watch that documentary. It's available on Netflix. Now, some of you guys might not drink beer, but whether you drink beer or not, it's hard to argue that we live in a society that's greatly influenced by the beverage. In fact, it's the third most consumed beverage in the world, after water and tea, and it's influenced our history in some ways that will surprise you. Today I will show you how beer helped establish human civilization and has led to many revolutionary inventions along the way. And after listening to my speech, you will be able to explain why beer has been such a big part of human history. Now let's look at a few of the surprising ways that beer has influenced our history. Beer actually helped establish human civilization. Humans have been around for about 100,000 years, but for the first 90,000 of that, we did very little. We lived in small, isolated populations and lived nomadic lifestyles, and we had very little technology beyond spearheads and fire. In fact, my survey, I did a survey for you, and one of my questions was, what was grains like barley and wheat first used for? And most of you guys said that it was used to bake bread. But in fact, it was a taste for beer, not bread, that led people to start growing barley. According to Dr. Patrick McGovern of the University of Pennsylvania, and he's a professor of bioarchaeology, he found evidence in clay jars when doing some research in Mesopotamia that says that beer predates bread by as much as 3,000 years. Dr. Thomas Shellhammer of Oregon University has a theory that says beer was probably discovered by accident, when some hunter-gatherers put some barley in a jar, went away on a hunt, and left the jar sitting, and it rained on the jar once. The first time it would have rained very little, germinated the barley. Then it rained again, heavier, filled the jar, and it was left to sit for a few days, and that's when the magic happened. Sugars in the germinated barley, activated by the germination enzymes, began to produce carbon dioxide and alcohol. And when the hunter-gatherers came back, someone saw the frothy fluid, and someone was brave enough to take a sip. And that's when the magic happened. The first drink of beer. And they loved the beverage so much they must have tried to reproduce the process. And it became so popular that these people exhausted their supply of wild barley. So they had to settle down and start growing the stuff themselves. And this led to the first human civilization. Oh, there's my picture of barley. Ancient Mesopotamia. You can see over here the barley fields in the top right here. But beer also, beyond helping to establish human civilization, has also led to many inventions along the way, like I said. And the first of these started in Mesopotamia. Because people were farming beer, or barley to grow to make into beer, they invented things like the plow, the wheel, and irrigation. And also the land distribution and economic distribution of beer also led to the invention of writing, mathematics, and modern economics. Beer also made long sea voyages possible for ancient people, because water stored in kegs would fester because they didn't have any sterilization processes. But beer, unknown to them, was preserved by alcohol, and later on, hops, which is kind of a modern ingredient in beer, but it's a natural preservative. And these people stored what was called ship's beer in their ships, which was low in alcohol and rich in nutrition, so they could travel around the world and do trade and discover new places. Beer also led to the discovery of germs. Louis Pasteur, who's famous for inventing pasteurization, Most people think he was studying milk when he discovered germs and invented pasteurization, but in fact he was studying beer. He wondered why his beer would sometimes become skunked. And he, got some microscopes and looked really closely and saw these little squigglies running around. He figured, that's probably what's skunking my beer. So he invented pasteurization to kill the germs. This led to the development of the germ theory, which is the foundation of modern medicine. So all modern medicine, we have beer to thank for. Beer also, now this is quite a complex device here, but beer also led to the discovery of refrigeration. A new style of beer relatively is the lager style, which is probably the most popular style today. So Budweiser, Coors, Boston Lager, those are all examples of lagers, which is a crisp, refreshing style of beer, but it has to be brewed at cold temperatures. And this could only be done in the 18th and 19th centuries by cutting out blocks of ice from rivers and bringing them to the breweries. But they couldn't brew the stuff in the summer, so in the summer the beer ran out. That's not good. So brewers dreamed of the day they could brew in the summers, and that was just science fiction until, what was the guy's name? Oh, Karl von Lindt, a German scientist, invented the ammonia absorption refrigeration apparatus. There's a diagram of it here, and that is the grandfather of all modern refrigeration. Ice makers, air conditioning, all cold food storage, and it's all because people wanted to brew beer in the summer. Beer was actually the first item produced on an assembly line as well. A lot of people think it was Henry Ford's Model T. But beer actually led to the invention of the modern factory because of the vast demand for beer bottles. And this led to modern mass production as we know it, and actually helped to end child labor because, they didn't have to have the kids working in factories anymore. And I learned that fact off the documentary I cited, How Beer Saved the World, aired on Discovery Channel in 2011.
Go to your conclusion.
Okay. So, in conclusion, I hope you see now how beer has been a bigger part of history than some of you might have thought. Today I showed you how beer helped establish human civilization and has led to many great inventions along the way. And the story of beer is one that's almost as old as man himself, and it's given us a lot of awesome things along the way, but bigger than that, it's really helped us to develop our identity as humans, as the masters of this planet, and given us the tools that we need to conquer the globe and live the kind of lifestyles that we have today. And it's also given us a refreshing way to relax and spark a conversation for thousands of years, taking us back to those first ancestors who first tried beer. So thank you. Cheers.